Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Government Affairs meeting. I don't know where the rest of the crowd is. Everybody's sleeping in or so again, welcome. Early on when we first started with the recreational cannabis dispensaries back in, I think our first store opened up in no, I don't need to be on camera.
Can be on. Yeah.
Back in 2018, I think it was, we did have a representative of the CCC here. I think her name was Britta
McBride.
Yeah. You know, did a presentation on what's going on and the regulations that were in effect at the time. And I don't even think we had our first dispensary open. Our first dispensary was down on the Linway. And since then, we've opened up 7 with the 8th just about to open. And per the regulations, that was the minimum that we had to license. And, you know, in that time, the dispensaries such as Heather's had to jump through all these hoops, and then regulations changed, and then delivery became an option. We did approve 2 delivery services. We approved kosher edibles bakery that never came to fruition. And just recently, and I don't know how the CCC is going to look at this when their time comes, but a pizza shop is going to produce cannabis infused spaghetti sauce and salad dressing. So we'll see how that one goes. But that was just recently done a couple weeks ago. So this morning we're joined by Bruce Stebbins, who's a member of the Cannabis Control Commission, and Heather Hannon, who owns Essex Apothecary on Western Ave, a chamber member. So I just thought, we've gone so long in the process now. Our 8th dispensary is about to open. We've seen changes in the regulations. We have new changes that's just come about with community impact fees and all. And I thought this would be a good time to discuss it. So Bruce, if you want to start off and introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself, and then Heather, you can follow up to say.
Okay, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've had the chance to visit Lynn, so it's nice to have a chance to come back. Just if I can share a little bit about me, my career for the most part has been in the area of business and economic development. I worked for years with the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. Worked for a national manufacturing trade association for a few years, and then found myself being asked to apply for one of the original commissioner's slots for the Mass Gaming Commission. So did that, helped license the 3 casinos that we have in Massachusetts. And then in 2021, I was appointed by the governor, the attorney general, and the treasurer to step over to the Mass Cannabis Commission. Heather knows this, but cannabis and gaming are night and day, and certainly with respect to how the commission operates in the different regulations. But quickly to jump into some of the newer developments, I would say, with respect to cannabis regulations. We had Chapter 180 passed. We have now fully promulgated all the regs for that. They are now in effect. That made a lot of changes to the host community agreement process, as you're well aware. It also helped us change some of the suitability requirements for people that wanted to enter this industry and seek employment and career opportunities. Also created a social equity fund. We know one of the biggest challenges because of the federal prohibition is a lack of access to capital for cannabis businesses. So the state has created a social equity trust fund. We actually allow licensees that are looking for a positive impact plan or a component of their positive impact plan to make donations to that social equity trust fund. We don't operate the social equity trust fund. That is all handled by the Executive Office of Economic Affairs. So some great new components to hope move the industry forward. I've been here, it will be 3 years in January. I have to say I was a little bit of a skeptic about the industry. I sometimes tell people I think it's healthy to have a skeptic as a regulator. But what I've stepped in and seen, I've been impressed with the industry. I've been impressed with the economic impact it has had in many different communities. Obviously, the number of jobs it's created, the revenue to the Commonwealth, obviously, has been positive. But unlike my role at the Gaming Commission, where gaming was already legalized in how many other states, Massachusetts was the first one legalizing adult use east of the Mississippi. And now there's a lot more competition coming from neighboring states that are now legalizing. So we're mindful, thank you. We're mindful of what some of those pressures are on our small business licensees, but we're still seeing growth with respect to revenue. Sales continue to reach record highs. Obviously, the prices come down. I realize how much that might impact a small retailer, but the industry is still strong, and the industry, at least revenue-wise, continues to grow. So, but that comes with more licensees that are out there. So we're tackling a number of other topics. We're building out a regulatory framework for social consumption. We're also making some regulatory changes. We voted at our last meeting to remove some of the restrictions on micro businesses. That's a license type held by a resident of Massachusetts. They were limited to just that one license. And all of a sudden that micro business has some success and they can't have another license without surrendering the one they have. So we were concerned that they're cutting off a big revenue stream to afford their next big move. So our next regulatory round will include a change to that to allow a micro business owner to expand, to add another license, to continue to grow in Massachusetts. So those are some of the big updates. I'm anxious to hear from Heather about kind of what she's experienced.
Well, I got you. So there's a couple things that I want to say, and one of them is that what you said, we're not all a bunch of potheads just because we own a pot store. And I actually have half the people that work for me don't do the pot. Oh, sorry, I was dropping the ball. The other thing is what you did say when you came from the gaming side of it. There are some similarities, in my opinion, because it's a new industry. Mm-hmm. I came from a telecom side of it, which was a new industry when the Telecom Act came out. And so you're kind of working your way through trying to figure out, navigate all this newness. You're trying to weed your way through, pun intended. Yeah. So, but there are a lot of things, growing pains and laws and regulation that you have to keep up with. And for one is this host community agreement. I mean, who knew that you needed to have, a blanket one or like a template up front, but there were so many different ones. And luckily, I'll say this, I'll give props to Lynn, that theirs is not that bad. I mean, it's pretty fair. And they have been great to work with. The city attorney, well, is it Jim Lamontis it's either city attorney. Yeah. So Jim, him and then Rick have been great. So I'm not there. I have no complaints there, but I am curious as to what have they come up with a blanket form now that they're trying to push out to all the other municipalities? Because I've seen some terrible ones.
We are finalizing what will be a kind of a standard host community agreement that we want to see folks use at the municipal level with new licensees as they come up for renewal. Interesting. I just want to touch on a great point that you made about an industry, and I've said this before. Like I said, when I was at gaming, we have 3 operators that did this in other jurisdictions. Gaming has been around forever. Now you have a new industry that wants to be innovative, wants to be entrepreneurial, and we're a regulatory body that's trying to keep up with that. And as you know, promulgating any regulations takes a lot of time. Yep. So we're trying to keep up with the innovations that the industry is asking for to allow them to be competitive. But when it comes to host community agreements, the community impact fees, because we really want municipalities, well, we're requiring municipalities to justify expenses. If they can't find a cost or an impact, we really want that money to stay with the licensee. We figured that's a way for you to invest back in your business, maybe hire more folks, do expansion as needed, but it keeps more money with the business owner.
And then
if there are no impacts being
Can it
felt.
work the other way too? So can I get money back for the improvement that I made on that property value for the building that I put all the money into? Because I know that building got complaints all the time, and it's beautiful now.
It is.
I'll vouch for that.
So can I get that money back for that? Because it worked the other way. The impact that
I
the
used
good
to get
impact that I've
complaints
had.
on that building.
I know.
And it wasn't even my wood.
Anyway.
So Heather, and you've been open 2 years now?
It's June 4th, 2022. It took me 4 years to get there though. And the irony is, I'd like to point this out, that the building that we're sitting right now was my first set of architectural drawings that went wrong. Well, the architectural drawings didn't go wrong. And it wasn't you, Glenn, because I see my last architect is on here, but it was a whole political thing. But anyway, and I ended up in a good spot. It just took me some time to get there. So
Thanks for that.
It was just so much of the unknown.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
We don't want this in our neighborhood. We don't want it in our ward. And when we started with the, just before I got on the council, they had awarded 2 medical licenses, and they were both in Westland. And that council at the time went nuts. You're just dumping all these pot stores in my ward, and the rest of the city's not getting any. And when I came on, and as soon as I became a city councilor, the council president said, boom, you're chairman of the cannabis committee. And so my goal was to see them kind of equally dispersed around the city. And so that, almost every ward was gonna have one of these stores. And then you got, we don't want them in our neighborhood, the traffic, and, they would think the worst of the worst. People were gonna be sparking them up, outside in the parking lot, and that just hasn't happened. And we have the deputy chief on with us this morning, and I think he can attest to the fact that there's no issues. They're all, we've never had a traffic issue. They're all clean, really nice properties. Heather's done an amazing job down there cleaning up that junkyard. And
we have lots of cameras that can help the community as well too. I have more. I don't know. I was curious this morning. I was thinking about it. How many cameras that St. Jean's has, a bank? Because I have 31 in a 27 square foot place. I have 31 cameras. Yeah. So there's nothing going down in that hood.
So Heather, as an operator, opening up, has it been what you expected? Once you got open, jumped through all the hoops, and you were kind of one of the early ones?
No, no, yes and no. It takes some time to ramp up to get the word out, right? And I think people were driving by that building for 3 years going, what the hell is it? What the hell is it? And for the 2 years that I was trying to rehab it. So it hasn't been the traffic that we need, and it's the industry is taking a hit. And what I can say about this, which is, we share a lot of we share a lot of attorneys. So a lot of cannabis people, we have a cannabis attorney, and we also share a lot of tax people. And I have recently had to fire our tax people, but in doing so, I've interviewed a bunch of tax people, and I've asked, what are you seeing in the industry? And and it's unfortunate, but there are a lot of people that can't pay their taxes. And it's not so much the city or the state tax, it's the federal tax. And so, I mean, in all honesty, for our store, we're paying our bills, but I'm going to have to go outside of the store to pay the federal taxes. And a lot of people can't do it. And you can see the changes in the industry. Well, you'll see now these new finance companies that are popping up. They're like, we'll lend you the money, which you don't want to borrow money to get in debt.
Right.
So unfortunately, there are a lot of sales going on. There's a lot of people exiting. There's a lot of, it's not fire sale yet, but you're not getting the value. And I was talking to my attorney and my tax person. I'm like, who's going to come in and buy a business though that's failing? And it's going to be some of these big guys out of Colorado that can, afford it. So, I mean, that's the part we're seeing, and then it's an oversaturation of licenses. We don't have the businesses to support all these licenses, and I was talking to Bruce earlier today. If we could get, I mean, we've got to stop issuing licenses, or let the industry catch up to what we've got, right? And if it will. So that's where I think we have to start. And the other thing that I think we should do, which I was trying to elbow this, is that, because I know it's not the CCC, but you talk to the state, you know, when one fails or when one decides to go out of business, let's don't force them to reissue that license. And I know it can't be on the city because the city's going to set themselves up for a lawsuit, you know, because I've asked that question. They're like,
We
yeah,
just went through it.
yeah, I know. So that would have helped, you know, but that's something that you can't do, and we can't change the federal thing. So all that we can do is what we have, what's in our power, and it's the state that's got to help, because they've got to come up with some of these things. It would be nice if we could get some sort of grant. I mean, I'm a single mother, woman-owned, woman-run, and there's grants galore, but I can't get one because I'm a cannabis. So why? I mean, that's silly. Like, I mean, this is a legal business. So, but I can't apply for the grants. So, I mean, that would help. So, I mean, and then just, I mean, again, it's not anybody's fault because it's a new industry and we're all trying to figure it out together. You know, unfortunately, we're the ones that are suffering, but I'm positive about it. And I think it's going to be a couple years, though, I think, before anybody really is profitable. And when I talk to the tax people, and I said, you know, how many people do you really have that are profitable? And it's not that many. It's not that many. So it's unfortunate, but we're here. But I'd rather you guys come to, you know, Lynn and buy it from any store in Lynn, keep it local and not buy it off the street. So, you know, but I'm also seeing the other things I'm seeing. There's a lot of vendors that are exiting. So I've got some drink guys, companies, you know, edible companies that are like, we're out. You can, and it's Endless Coast. I love them, and they are gone. And I've had the last couple of weeks, I've had 3 of the big guys say we're moving back to Colorado, and it's unfortunate, yeah. And think about the cost of running a grow. I mean, most of the grows are indoor. They have to be because we live in Massachusetts. So it's the cost of that. I mean, I know that one of my biggest suppliers, Green Gold, when they started in their building, they thought, oh, we'll spend 20 million. They spent like 60. So trying to regain some of that, you know, that market share and get that money back, because it was ungodly the cost for us to open. I mean, the greed from everywhere, you know, from everywhere. It just, you were paying, and sometimes you didn't have a choice. So, I mean, I think it's going to turn, and I think it's good to have somebody who's pro-business and somebody who's, you know, advocating for us. And I would assume that the state and the city, they want to see success in this because this is revenue for the city. This is revenue for the state. So, you know, 3% of zero is zero.
Right.
So, you know, hopefully we can start getting through some of this and getting on the positive of it. I'm still positive. I have a great store, I have a great staff, so I'm very blessed. I mean, I've been through some crap, but I'm here, I'm open, and I've got some wonderful people that work for me that care, and they're vested, and, you know.
I think your store does marketing a lot differently than a lot of others. You know, out there in the community, member of the chamber, sponsor everything, and I think that goes a long way for people to know who you are and feel comfortable going in the store.
And just so you know, I do that not because of that. I do that because I'm raising my daughter here. I uprooted my life and moved here as a single mom, and it's because I care about Lynn. I mean, nobody from the South ever came to Lynn, Massachusetts, and said I freaking love it. I mean, nobody but me. I think it's a great community. It really yeah. Well, there you go. It's a great community. It is. I mean, and I mean, I've got a great support system. I've got great people. And so I love all the things that it's about. So I really do.
Yes.
Can I ask a question of the commission?
Sure.
So one of the things, and I don't know, Heather, if you'll agree with this, is I still hear from a lot of people that are buying marijuana on the black market because the taxes are lower, the prices are better. What is the commission doing to make stores like Heather's more able to survive by reassessing the taxing scheme that is on marijuana so that these businesses can survive and be vital parts of the community, and also protect the public? Because in the black market, you don't get any of the testing, the regulation,
Right.
and you know, there's the fentanyl pieces that are starting to pop up. So how do we support Heather and businesses like Heather by having a real look at the taxing structure to reduce those taxes, to make it more easy for these small businesses to survive and to save the public with regulated product that is safe?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's great to hear from a licensee who's so committed and passionate about the community that they're operating in. Just a couple of snapshots around this. First of all, I think what you probably have seen with Massachusetts follows what other jurisdictions saw when they welcomed the industry, legalized the industry. And it's kind of a bell curve, right? It's soaring prices, and then the prices come down the more people playing in the industry. That may not help Heather or some of the licensees all the time, but it certainly helps the customer, because now hopefully we're driving the price of cannabis on the illicit market and price on the adult use market a little closer together. I think, talking about the fact that the product is safe, the product is tested, may makes any one person think about where I'm going to make a purchase from. I think delivery has helped with that. We're having a big conversation on delivery. But I do come back to, the Chapter 180 changes about the community impact fees. If a city or town is not experiencing an impact from Heather's business or any other business being in the community, then what are they collecting that money for? And isn't it better to have that money reinvested back in her business and let her make some critical business decisions? Sounds like paying a tax bill might be right up there. But that's a huge piece of it. We'd love to see some action from the federal government, at least on the safe banking, allowing her to go to an institution, for lending to help with an expansion, help with a grow, provide
Use a credit
more
card
working capital.
use a credit card. Yeah.
But, we're constrained. There's only so much we can do at the state level. But I would say the community impact fee change is a change that the industry had been arguing for, I think, almost from day one, or at least as dispensaries started to open and you didn't see the impact. So we thank the legislature. They were, they led this. Governor Baker signed the law before he left office. And not only that, again, the creation of the Social Equity Trust Fund to allow some folks that can't get capital from the normal means to have an access point. But I think some of that community impact fee coming back to Heather or other licensees, I think will be really impactful. And we're going to start to see that in 2024.
And I have two comments to that, just to so your point. If it does impact the community, I have no problem paying it. I absolutely have no issue. I get that. I understand that. Something else I wanted to make a point of that I think a lot of people don't understand and don't know, and this is kind of just a side thing, is when we were talking about the safety of marijuana. And by the way, we shouldn't say marijuana, we should say cannabis. Did you know that marijuana was actually a derogatory word used for Hispanics? How horrible is that? But I mean, we all say it. But we shouldn't. So cannabis, because we're fancy now. But I don't think people understand that the safety of the stuff that we sell, it is tracked in a system called metric from seed to sell. So that seed is tracked from when it becomes whatever it becomes. It is a chain of custody. So we know who touched it. We know where it went. And I think a lot of people don't understand, and that could affect the cost. But in another point, that we're seeing prices come down right now because people are trying to get their stuff out there. So, I mean, there are some great deals out there. I don't know why you'd buy it off the street, to be honest, because it's probably cheaper in the store now.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's a great point you make about metric on the cannabis plant. I mean, the plant is tagged when it hits with like 8 inches.
Oh, it's like when it's a seed, and then it becomes and then it's tagged again, and then it's tagged again, and then it's tagged again, and then it's tagged again.
And then that batch is tagged when it goes off to the testing laboratory and when it comes back. So it's what other jurisdictions do as well. But I think we're trying to give some confidence to the consumer that it's been followed, it's been tested. And, the fact that we prioritized licensing testing labs so we could create more testing labs in Massachusetts so that testing could happen faster, product could get to market faster. So
That's another follow-up question on
Yeah,
the
sure.
delivery. So is the commission doing anything to help the current licensees that are going to be affected by delivery services that are not now people coming into the stores? Is there any priority to give current licensees delivery services within their current licenses so that they don't have to compete with these new businesses when they're already struggling?
sure, we
Great
just-
question, Brendan.
great question. Did you ask him that?
I did not, but if I would have planned it, it couldn't have happened any better.
Just for a little bit of background, we have delivery courier licenses. Those are only available to our social equity applicants.
So
or
is that like a
equity-
Grubhub or a, is that,
It is essentially somebody who's delivering on behalf of a retail store or behalf of
okay.
a medical dispensary. Then we have a delivery operator, and that's somebody who wants to store product and be able, you buy it directly from them. You know, the delivery regs were all promulgated before I joined the commission. I think there's been some appreciation or some outreach from the delivery licensees that it's not a lucrative business model. Massachusetts requires 2 agents in the car when making a delivery. That's not a requirement in other states, but I think we appreciate the safety component to that. Delivery operators have come to us and said, can you drop the 2-agent rule? Can we deliver to no communities across Massachusetts? You know, what are some other opportunities that we have to expand our market? So again, you know, it is a little bit of competition for Heather, but at the same time, there was a big push to create a social equity economic empowerment license type I think the commission's thinking at the time was this is a low barrier to entry, right? It's not a brick and mortar unless you go the delivery operator route. Couple of agents in a car, locked box of goods. Thankfully, I think we've only had 1 case of diversion of product getting stolen out of the vehicle. So we do like that safety reputation that we've built, but again, competition, market getting tighter, you know, I think as a body, we're willing to look at regulations and what regulations we can change. Again, to allow our licensees to be more competitive, especially, you know, now Vermont is legalized, New York State, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I have actually spent some time driving around visiting some of those licensees that are on a border with another state and just say, what are you seeing? And a lot of them some are experiencing no change. We got the jump. We got the opportunity to build that customer relationship. So we're still seeing people drive in from other state, even though obviously we tell them you can't bring the product back across state lines.
I'm sure everybody complies.
I'm sure they do. But, you know, and I think, you know, opening up social consumption as a license type now that the legislature and the governor gave us the fix, we need to move ahead with social consumption, I think is going to expand the opportunity because now somebody will hopefully enjoy a product at a social consumption site and realize Heather's retail store might carry it, they can go get it there in the meantime. So I think there are some opportunities that are being created.
So Bruce, just to get back to Brendan's question
Sure.
a little bit, do you envision ever a dispensary, a brick and mortar, being able to deliver on their own?
Right now we have an exclusivity window for delivery. There's a window that started in 2021 when the first delivery operator license was granted. So they have a 3-year exclusivity period, which goes into, 2022. I believe it ends in 2025.
And those all went to social equity, right? Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
And we haven't, the regs promulgated at the time asked us to look at a variety of factors as to whether the exclusivity period would need to be extended or whether it could end. So that, depending on how we make that decision, again, might allow a retailer to suddenly offer that service to their own customers.
Because when that rolled out, I kind of looked at it like a business person
Mm-hmm.
and said, you know, I equate it to my own business. If I have to spend all this money for all this equipment to be able to get a license and operate, and then you say, yeah, you don't need a spray booth, you don't need this and that, if
Right.
you want to operate over here, and it just sets up an unfair level of competition.
He also got a phone call from some of the retail owners.
We did.
I did. Rick did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rick did.
And we did approve two. Neither one of them is set up operations. I haven't even heard anything about them since, but
Yep.
It just always struck a chord with me as being, you know, unfair level of competition for all these people that had to jump through hoops. I kind of have the same feeling towards food trucks, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we let a food truck come in at peak lunchtime and then roll back to wherever they come from. Yet we've got brick and mortars that are there paying taxes 24/7, sponsoring little league teams and everything else. So
Right.
that's just my little opinion of it as
And
a business person.
In our opinion too, I mean, I love our locals and our regulars coming in, and they love to come in. I mean, I've got a lady that comes in every single day to buy one pre-roll. And I'm like, Susan, you could buy 7 and come back. She goes, but then I wouldn't see you. And I'm like, okay. So, but no, but I mean, we have the the people that come in and want that interaction and do that. So I would prefer them to come in and talk to, because we've got great people. I would prefer them to come in. I mean, if I could be profitable delivering, okay. But, you know, I prefer people to come in. We have a great store, so, and a big TV that I pay for. So let's go see it.
Any questions?
I'll just be somebody that's grew up in that neighborhood. I mean, what Heather's done to that building is just really make a big impact on the
I
area,
appreciate you.
and she definitely reaches out and helps out with sponsorship wherever available, and the fact that she's out in the community, and like I said, as a single mom, you know, you're doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
You want your child to grow up there, you want to do the right things.
Right.
Yeah.
The social impact that you talked about, I mean, I think you're doing great things.
Thank you. I appreciate you. That
You
you
know,
have no idea how much that means. Seriously,
And you have.
if I could have planted that question or that, I'd have done it. But
You have an amazing team working with. I know I've showed up to some events where, you know, chili cook-off, and I see, you know, painting them high rock paint nights and some of these great events you have. So hopefully some people are able to come in and, you know, even if, you know, this, if you're not gonna use cannabis, there are other products there, and there's a great thing that you're offering.
Right.
So thank you.
yeah,
And I also live in that neighborhood, and that place was
I know.
terrible,
I know.
and you have just
Thank
made
you.
it such a high spot,
Thank
and you are very generous to the chamber, and we appreciate it. But a lot of the events you do, I hear a lot of feedback. You sell great candles.
Oh, we have great, yeah, we have good candles. We're about to do a big, I'll promote my ALS. We're doing a big ALS casino night. So I have a really good friend of mine whose husband was diagnosed with ALS and died 9 months later, like had no time, just when they got their house redone and handicap accessible. And she had a 3-year-old at the time, and the onset came quick. And so we're doing a fundraiser in his name. So yeah, hopefully everybody can come. Or if not, we're going to put a thing up so people can donate who can't come, right? And it goes directly to ALS. I think it's Compassionate Care. I can't remember. There's several organizations, but we did it last year and we had so much fun. We had a great, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
I want to go back to what you just were talking about, and you know, Heather's work to take what sounds like a really dilapidated eyesore
have
in the
no idea.
neighborhood
Yeah.
and turn it around. And you know, again, I spoke about being a little bit of a skeptic about the cannabis industry, but one of the things is a former economic development professional I'd like to hear is what it has meant to a lot of communities that eyesore has now been renovated. The city of Holyoke, which opened their arms to the cannabis industry to come in, is now filling up, you know, some of this old brick warehouse space, you know, old
probably
paper
making it
mills,
fabulous.
and
Right.
making it
Yeah,
fabulous and
yeah,
creating a
yep.
little bit of a, you know, as again, economic development
Yeah.
and chamber, right? You're looking for that vibe, you're looking for that energy in the community. And I've seen that story retold several times across the state. The other, you know, interesting part for Lynn is you're one of our disproportionately impacted communities. So folks that don't even have to be locating in Lynn can look at Lynn and say, part of my positive impact plan, I need to have a positive impact or a strategy to support a disproportionately impacted community. I can do a cleanup in Lynn. I can hire, you know, residents of Lynn to work in my dispensary, even if it's not in the borders of the city. So it's, you know, Lynn's in a great position. It's great to hear the stories of, you know, Heather and her project to, again, spruce up an eyesore in the neighborhood. And again, that's been And that's been
It's always
something that's
immaculate.
encouraging. I mean, you walk into a dispensary, sometimes it's cleaner than an Apple store. I mean,
I don't
they're,
like those. I
they're
like glass.
phenomenal.
Yeah, but I mean, they're good and nice and clean, but you're
Right.
just like, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm allowed to be here and I have a business.
But I feel the other part of it too is where Heather said, she's not from, but she screams Lynn pride.
Oh,
in
man.
Everything she does for the community.
I'm turning into Lynn though. Your daughter's helping.
I
Girl,
know.
I'm about to be Lynn. Let's
You
go.
are Linda.
I know. My daughter's gonna be Lynn for sure. She's already getting a little Boston accent. I'm like, what'd you just say? She said, over there. I was like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Don't you say Patriots.
So talk a little bit about banking, and you
Oh.
said, hopefully the feds can lighten up a little bit, but can you go to credit unions?
No, I mean, and and this is an interesting thing. So, when you start in this industry, you go anywhere you can because no one wants you because they're, I just still can't wrap my head around how cash is a high risk. Cash? Yeah, it's a high risk. So, but the fees that people were charging and they were doing, so no, but I will say this, it's loosening up a lot more. I just fired my bank. I'm in the firing mode this week. So but we have a new bank and now it's starting, there's competition and there really wasn't competition in the beginning. So no, I can't go to a credit union, but we switched which we started at a credit union and at GFA, and then we've moved now to Main Street. So there's a lot of and that part of the industry is improving.
Mhm.
It's these fees that we had to pay. We had no choice. I mean, you have to have someone take it. So you can go to a credit union, but the credit union feels still that the cannabis industry is high risk. I do feel like though the banking industry part of it is loosening up a lot more quicker than the rest of it.
Right.
So which is interesting because that's the Fed. I wish the Fed would get rid of their 280. That would help a lot of people. But so yes, but only certain ones you can go to. So I mean, I can't go to St. Jean unless St. Jean has decided that they want to, be in the cannabis space.
So any credit union that takes cannabis deposits,
You can.
would they also finance? Or is your only source of financing investors?
It's only a source of right now is investors. I mean, there's these companies now that are creating themselves that are going to come in and like, we'll give you money. I'm sure it's crazy. Yeah, I'm sure it's crazy. I mean, and you can see how the industry is changing when you start to see these certain things pop up, and this is a big thing now. I mean, I'm getting letters in the mail, that like, I'm a real estate person and I will sell your business for you, your cannabis business, or I'm a lender and I'll give you money. And I just hope to God that people aren't going to start falling into that and get deeper in because it's not going to solve it. What we need to do is start to limit licenses, not reissue them and educate. I think another part of it is educating people on the benefits of cannabis. This industry spent so much money in the beginning trying to prove how bad it was for you. Nobody ever spent any money proving how good it is for you or what it could do. And I have personally seen it at a personal level. I mean, I remember in high school, I decided, I was going to narc on my brother for smoking weed, and then I smoked it. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I'm in AP calculus. I don't have to open a book. I don't do anything, but I can concentrate because I have ADD. And I was like, one day they're going to prove this is good. And look what's happening. And my father went through Agent Orange, and you didn't really survive Agent Orange, but the man wasn't eating. And I'm like, Dad, you need to smoke some, weed to get an appetite. He's great now. I mean, now he didn't quit smoking weed. I'm like, you need to slow down. But I mean, I think that once we start educating people on, there's still a stigma out there that, oh my gosh, marijuana is bad. Marijuana is bad. I mean, in the beginning in the city, when I was looking at a building in Ward, in Darren Sears' ward, and Darren Sears is anti. He's like, nope. And they're like, you would have to call him. I'm like, I'm calling him. So, and Darren's like, I'm not a fan, and I'm not, I didn't vote for it, but it's good for the city.
Yep.
And I think, but as more people get educated on the benefits of it, I think that'll help. And we try to educate people. I don't want everybody to come in the store and just start smoking weed. I mean, I lean people towards CBD if they can start, see how it works. I don't think, and again, a lot of people that work for me don't do it. But we see the benefits it has on some people. I mean, I have some people that work for me that are just like heavy hitters. I'm like, wow. So, I just think some education is going to help too.
Yeah, I just to first of all, it's great to be here, and it's great to hear her journey and how she operates her business
You
and how
haven't
she
heard the whole
feels.
journey, Bruce. But if we get a bottle of bourbon, we can do this.
Okay, wow. No, but just to touch on a couple of subjects, the financing piece, obviously the federal prohibition, still limits the lending appetite. I will say now, when I go to NECAN, which is kind of the big conference expo of the cannabis industry in the Northeast in Boston, you're seeing more exhibitor booths being occupied by folks in the lending industry. Different banks are, they're stepping up to compete. I did speak to one who said, obviously, I can't give you working capital to build inventory, but I might be able to do something on the capital asset side, right? I might be able to lend toward building improvements and things like that. Separately, we have our social equity program where we take applications for folks that want to qualify for our social equity program. It's a free training course. It was the first free social equity training program in the United States. And we talked to them about some of those kind of lending signs, or when somebody approaches you with what appears to be a really good deal, we're putting people through training to kind of be mindful of that and hopefully ask all the right questions before they make
Silly decision.
Silly decision. So that's what we see around, the lending piece of it. And again, going back to positive impact plans, which are a requirement for any licensee, speaking to Heather's point about helping people understand the plant and helping understand the benefits somebody might realize from using cannabis. We find a lot of our licensee want to do that in their community, talk to their neighbors, bring them in and talk to them about the benefit. The training that bud tenders go through, I had a friend ask me about using cannabis. I said, well, you can go to find a near retailer to your home and go in and talk to the bud tender and say, this is what I'm feeling. Is there something that might work? I'm new to this, or, I think what Massachusetts has done right is with our licensees is it's a business, it's a built-in business advantage for that customer to feel welcome and feel that if they have questions, there's somebody they can go to. And I think that's changed the experience for a lot of people that are new to using cannabis in Massachusetts. Again, I think the market continues to grow. People who have been, I think they describe it as canna curious. That's a great place for them to start walking into a licensed facility and talking to a bud tender.
Well, I think in the 5 years or so since we've opened our first store, we've kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit on cannabis, and people come to realize that there's no boogeyman there. And I mentioned it this morning that when Mass Green Retail started down their journey on the Saugus line, and a little piece of their parking lot was in Saugus, we had Saugus Select Board members coming to that meeting, protesting. Saugus residents don't want this. We don't want this. They've started to, legal proceedings to sue the city of Lynn. And then I opened the paper this morning and I see Saugus, allows the old 99 on Route 1 to be its newest cannabis dispensary. So,
amen that they opened their mind finally.
But with their fight and looking at how many Saugus residents voted in favor of recreational cannabis back in 2016, I said, that's genius putting that store there. But and I don't know how that's worked out since he's been open, but
maybe we're starting to progress, and that's a positive. So we can look at. Am I not letting somebody in? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And yeah, so like I said, the curtain's been pulled back. It's more widely accepted. I think education, like Heather was talking about, she's planning on doing a cannabis 101 to kind of let people know what it's really all about. I thought I knew everything you needed to know back in high school. But since taking over this committee, I've kind of immersed myself in it a little bit, and gone up to see Apothecary's grow facility up in Fitchburg and all. I mean, the technology and the science behind it
It's
is
crazy.
unbelievable.
Now you realize how bad the weed was we were smoking in high school.
Exactly, and you know,
Terrible.
to what Brendan had said earlier, especially now with the fentanyl and all that can be laced in there. Knowing what I know and you know what I've learned over the last 6 years, I'd be scared to death to smoke something off the street.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And before you would just
Yeah.
like not even give it a thought.
Yeah.
So
You touch on a good point, which is, you know, kind of some of the changing reactions or changing attitudes. You know, the 2016 vote to legalize for adult use, I think it was 53-47, 54-46, something like that. I feel as a regulator, you know, obviously we have a job to implement the statute and now the most recent changes to the statute. I think we also have an obligation to the folks that maybe didn't support it on the ballot question 2016 to continue to educate them about how the industry is safe, what we're doing to safeguard public health and public safety in Massachusetts as part of our kind of regulatory obligations as a commission. And you know, not too long ago, I think it hasn't been done in a while, but you know, University of Massachusetts came out with a poll that said 64% of Massachusetts residents were comfortable with how the industry had rolled out. So the progress through good behavior of our, you know, local licensees, the regulatory role that we continue to play, we want to continue to see those numbers shift and have a feeling that residents of Massachusetts are feeling more comfortable with how the industry is rolled out. And a lot of that is a credit to our talented team. A lot of that is a credit to our inaugural set of commissioners who built this regulatory foundation for the industry. And a lot of it is obviously attributable to our licensees who are that real local connection that somebody has to experience how the industry is working and the benefit that you bring to the community. And they walk away with a good sense of the industry itself and the profit.
The good news is everybody wants success. And so hopefully we can all do this together by having these conversations and by having the real ones. You know, I mean, I would have loved to come in here and say, oh, it's going great. You know, everybody's profitable and we're doing this thing, but that's just not the case right now. And hopefully that changes. So, you know, but obviously with you guys and this, we're working, you know, people are listening. So we're working that way. And again, it's a new industry. We're trudging through it to try to figure out, you know, how to do it. And some of it's, you know, learning the hard way, which is not fun, but it is what we're all going to have character. Character builders.
Any questions? Any questions from the Zoom crew? I have one last question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since all the dispensaries have been rolled out, have you had any that you've had to pull back their license?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think. Obviously, we've had some activity by dispensaries or licensees where we've had to issue them a notice of deficiency and a show cause order, which can carry a fine attached to it. If we have it, I should know this. If we have it, it's a small number that we had to completely retract their license. You know, and we understand, you know, this is somebody's personal property. This is somebody's investment. So it's not a decision we would make lightly.
Well, we've had no issues here in Lynn that I know of. But Bruce, I do appreciate you coming all the way from Western Mass to be with us.
Actually, I'm right down the road and just outside Framingham. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you were out in Springfield.
Yeah, no.
Oh, good. So
we
it wasn't as bad.
We moved east, gosh, about 6 years ago now, and even at the time,
That's
people are
called
like,
moving east.
"Yeah, people are like, you're still in Western Mass." I'm like, I'm in within 495 at least.
Yeah,
So
to us, there's Worcester and then New York, right?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. But thank you for having me, and you know, welcome the chance to come back at any time. And now I know I have to pop over and
Glenn,
See
you
how
have
it
a
is.
question?
Glenn, did you have a question?
No question. Just wanted to wish everybody happy holidays and keep on trucking, Heather.
Thanks,
Thank you
Glenn.
as well. And thank you, Heather, for dropping off your data
Anytime.
and rushing down here to
know.
be with us this morning.
Crossing Lynn is treacherous, let me tell you.
It is. I live
I
10 minutes away. It took me 20.
No, I had to cross from this side to that side and back, and I was like, I just literally pushed my daughter out of the car. I'm like, can you take her? Another bomb. Go.
So thank you both for being here.
Thank you
I think
for
it was a great discussion. Next month, we have Chief Reddy and/or Deputy Chief Mike Vale will be with us for our January meeting to give us a Lynn Police update and talk about some of their new technology. In February, we'll have Diana DiZoglia, the state auditor, will be here to talk about some of the things that she's.
By the way, she's having a fundraiser tonight. If anybody would like to attend, I will be there.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, you can tell her you'll be here to. listen
I
to her
will.
speak
I'll tell
on
her.
Valentine's Day.
I'll tell her. Okay.
February 14th.
Okay.
And with that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. And
Thank you so
we'll
much.
see you next month.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
very
You
much.
guys put me-